my last stop in the community was to a group that's working on the master bike plan for the city. This was a presentation by a consultant hired by the Parks and Recreation Department. They made two presentations. One was midday at the Central Library, and I attended the other meeting, the evening meeting at the Pioneer Columbus Community Center on the South Side. I attended the evening meeting because I do consider myself a biker, although I do not ride a bike in Des Moines. Why? I'll explain. Anyway, Donald Tripp of Parks and Recreation and then other interested parties involved with the master plan also attended. So they started work on the plan April 2009. With the goal of making Des Moines more bike friendly. And so what they have before them now, what they presented is the draft stage of the final plan. And then according to the planners, that additional comments are welcome. The final plan will go before the Parks and Recreation Board, the Plan and Zoning Committee, and the Traffic and Safety Committee. Then it goes before the City Council for approval. Aspects of the plan will be phased in as sources become available. And so I'm letting you know the process that the plan is in. So if you are interested, now is definitely the time to make your voices heard. There were quite a lot of people at those meetings, and it became surprisingly emotional. And I guess sentimental too. Everyone's very much aware of the quality of life that bike trails and pedestrian-friendly streets and walkways and greenways bring, and so it's very much seen as an improvement in the community, and everyone wants their community improved. So anyway, bike lanes, they're talking about wide outside lanes, they're talking about shared lane markings, bicycle boulevards, and then shared use paths. And if you're in the city of Des Moines, you can kind of take a little drive or a bicycle ride or a walk down Ingersoll Avenue, and it'll give you an indication of what they're hoping that the rest of the city will become. In general, I'm really happy with what they've done with Ingersoll Avenue. There's more work to be done, but as I mentioned before, there's a surprising amount of hostility and scorn, and then on occasion, I can even say contempt towards pedestrians and bicyclists and public transit within this area. And it's kind of surprising to see. If you've been in other cities, it's been more accepted, although there's still work to be done in those other cities. But it's what most people who are aware of sustainable planning view as a step forward. A way to move the city forward is to make it more accessible to more people. But anyway, I see that expressed in words and actions, and then even aggressive behavior from people in vehicles, and it's unfortunate, but it's I guess maybe one more step in the progress that needs to be made towards bike friendliness. But anyway, the consultant mentioned that instead of random bike paths to nowhere, the overall goal is to connect every home in the city to every facility in the city. That's the goal. And so she did outline that there are several types of riders, at least 4 different types of riders. There's a strong and fearless rider who rides anytime, any place, any season, any weather, any distance, maybe even 2. There's also enthusiastic and confident, someone who's very much into riding the bike, but is also kind of cognizant of when it's the best time and when it's not the best time to ride. Then there's interested but concerned, and then there's also no way, no how. And I've actually found myself in all 4 categories, but it's mostly dealing with the type of city I'm in, the type of neighborhood I'm in, and also other factors too, other logistical factors. But somehow, all of us, I guess, at one time or another fall in those categories. The overall goal of the master bike plan is to promote complete streets for new roadways, in terms of paving the shoulder to widen the road, to reduce the size of the travel lanes, and to remove parking or reduce parking, or maybe even angle parking just to create more room on the streets. Particularly the narrow streets of Des Moines do lend themselves to shared lane markings. And so there are some streets that I've seen that would benefit from shared lane markings. And so those were discussed at the meeting. They did refer to the overall success of Ingersoll Avenue, but that there is a need to extend those bike lanes and then add more connections so people have somewhere to go beyond Ingersoll. Some of the groups at the meeting recommended that the consultant meet with some neighborhoods, but not others, which I found disturbing because it seemed kind of selfish and self-serving, and I'm hoping that I misunderstood. I think everyone should be included in that discussion. It's to everyone's benefit. We are a connected city, like I said, with the North Central area. What happens in one area does affect the other areas. And since these are travel lanes, transportation lanes, types of infrastructure, roadways, bikeways, they do crisscross the city, so we can't isolate the bike lanes. They do have to be connected, which means all the neighborhoods should be included in the discussion, not just Sherman Hill or Drake, but everyone. That's my recommendation, and I think anyone creating a master bike plan would want it to be actually complete.
1, 2.
Have you ever been? Did we get your twin brother?
I did make my views known on the vast empty space of the bike map that I noticed on the board on the north side of Des Moines. There's no bikeable street from Euclid to downtown Des Moines. East and west, yes. North and south, no. I mentioned that, and I was told that maybe in 20 years that MLK will be extended and the street redone as a complete street, and then there'll be a bike lane. And that was actually shouted down. It was shouted down by a man whose face did turn red, who expressed his displeasure at the very idea. But, my view, short-term alternatives to 20 years from now should probably do exist. In general, traffic moves entirely too fast on MLK. Hickman, Euclid, that area, it's not bikeable, and so currently bicyclists use the sidewalk, and that means the pedestrians are in danger somewhat from either being hit from behind or being actually knocked into traffic. It's too narrow and then too hilly on 30th, so there's just no really bikeable through streets to get from the north side to downtown. In terms of bike planning, I do feel with the current master plan that the north side is neglected, and that I'm also troubled that a lot of those streets have been blocked off by cement, and then little cement blocks, and kind of had grass put in to cut the streets off. It's a little bit disturbing. The consultant did agree with my assessment, but she did say her planning is constructed by Parks and Recreation. But I'm putting my views out there, and hopefully they've been listened to and acknowledged. And because, currently it looks kind of like the city has built some sort of cage, and it's not sustainable, and it's not a very good idea. I think it'll cause problems later down the road. That's my opinion, but hopefully there'll be more community discussion, because I do think large plans such as these do benefit from additional members of the community contributing. It's a great idea. But that's me meeting the people in my neighborhood. It was a very active week, and I got a lot done, and I learned a lot of different things. And then hopefully I showed my interest in the community, and then made my efforts to contribute to something happening for the greater good. Hopefully I did the right thing.